Today, we're exploring one of the most devastating pandemics in human history, the Black Death. How did this catastrophic event impact Europe? Let's find out. The Black Death, also known as the bubonic plague, swept through Europe between 1347 and 1351, wiping out an estimated 25 to 60% of the continent's population. But the effects of this deadly disease went far beyond the staggering death toll. The spread of the plague. The plague is believed to have originated in Asia and spread to Europe via trade routes, particularly the Silk Road. The disease arrived in Europe in October 1347, when 12 Genoese trading ships docked at the Sicilian port of Messina. Many of the sailors aboard the ships were already dead, and those who were still alive were gravely ill. The disease spread rapidly through ports, towns, and cities, carried by fleas on black rats and by human movement. The overcrowded and unsanitary living conditions of the time made Europe an easy target for such a virulent disease. Trade routes not only facilitated the movement of goods, but also the spread of the plague. Merchants, soldiers, and travelers unwittingly carried the disease with them, spreading it further into Europe. Cities such as Venice, Florence, and Marseille quickly fell victim to the Black Death. Immediate impacts on society. With death knocking on nearly every door, the immediate impact on European society was profound. Families were torn apart, villages were abandoned, and the social fabric of communities was stretched to its breaking point. Medical knowledge was limited, and treatments ranged from the ineffective to the outright harmful. Plague doctors wore bird-like masks filled with aromatic herbs, believing the scent would protect them from the disease. Sadly, these measures were largely ineffective. Doctors and healers tried various methods to cure the disease, from bloodletting and boil lancing to concoctions of herbs and spices. None of these treatments worked, and many only worsened the patient's suffering. Fear and panic spread faster than the disease itself. Economic consequences. The economic impact of the Black Death was equally significant. With a large portion of the workforce dead, labor became scarce. This scarcity of workers led to higher wages for laborers and peasants, disrupting the feudal system that had dominated medieval Europe. Landowners, desperate for labor to work their fields, were forced to offer better terms and conditions to peasants. This shift began to erode the rigid class structures that had defined medieval society for centuries. Fields went unplowed, harvests rotted, and livestock wandered unattended. The sudden drop in population meant that there were fewer mouths to feed, but it also led to food shortages and higher prices for basic goods. Merchants and craftsmen also felt the impact. With fewer people to buy their goods, many businesses struggled to survive. Markets were empty, and trade slowed to a crawl. The once bustling towns and cities became ghostly echoes of their former selves. Social and cultural changes. Beyond the economic upheaval, the Black Death also brought about significant social and cultural changes. The massive loss of life caused people to question long-held beliefs and traditions. The Church, which had been the cornerstone of medieval life, faced criticism and doubt as prayers and rituals failed to stop the plague. This period saw an increase in religious fervor, with some turning to flagellation and other extreme practices, while others grew disillusioned with the Church's inability to provide answers. Flagellants, groups of people who whipped themselves to atone for sins, became a common sight. They believed that self-punishment would earn God's mercy and end the plague. While their intentions were devout, their actions often led to further spread of the disease due to large gatherings. Art and literature from the period reflect a preoccupation with death and the macabre. The danse macabre, or dance of death, became a common theme, illustrating the idea that death comes for everyone, regardless of status or wealth. Monasteries, which had been centers of learning and scholarship, were not spared. Many monks succumbed to the plague, and with them, valuable knowledge and skills were lost. However, this period also saw the rise of vernacular languages in literature, as people began to write in their local dialects rather than Latin. Long-term impacts and legacy. The long-term impacts of the Black Death were far-reaching. The dramatic reduction in population led to significant social and economic transformations. It helped to accelerate the end of the feudal system and paved the way for the Renaissance by fostering a new sense of individualism and curiosity. With fewer people to support, the survivors found themselves with more resources and opportunities. This shift in societal structure allowed for greater innovation and creativity, laying the groundwork for the remarkable cultural and intellectual achievements of the Renaissance. The reduction in population also led to changes in land use and agriculture. More efficient farming methods were developed, and there was a greater emphasis on livestock raising. These changes contributed to an agricultural revolution that supported the growing population in the following centuries. The Black Death also had a lasting impact on public health and hygiene. The sheer scale of the pandemic highlighted the need for better sanitation and medical practices. Over time, these lessons contributed to the development of modern public health systems and medical knowledge. The Black Death was a tragic chapter in human history, but it also served as a catalyst for profound change. By reshaping the social, economic, and cultural landscape of Europe, it set the stage for the modern world. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe.